Now we will talk about glands. We start from sweat glands, or they are also called sudoriferous glands. You need to know that terminology. There are two main types of sudoriferous glands, eccrine and apocrine. Here is your eccrine gland. It's just a tubule, coiled tubule, and one end of it goes to the surface of the skin and opens into the pore and releases the sweat produced right here. So sweat mostly is made of water, small amount of salt, vitamins, antibodies, and some wastes. And main function of sudoriferous glands is thermoregulation. When we're sweating, the sweat is spread on the skin, it evaporates and cools down our body. Apocrine sweat glands are different. It's also a coiled tube. Usually it's sitting deeper into the tissues, and its duct opens not on the skin surface but to the hair, right to the hair root, and the sweat goes right here where the hair is going out. So those are mostly exist in axillary and anogenital areas around reproductive organs, and in addition to water and salts in the sweat produced by those glands, there will be some organic compounds. Those compounds make the sweat much thicker, and bacteria start feed on that organic material, which causes bacterial decomposition and smell. So ducts connect to hair follicles, and function of those apocrine glands starts from puberty only. Next type of glands are sebaceous or oil glands. Here they are. They are always attached to the hair, and they produce sebum. It's an oily secretion which softens our skin and our hair, and it has bactericidal properties also. They also become active from puberty only, and in children they are not active. Now, let's talk about functions of the integumentary system. First, of course, protection. Skin covers our body, and it has several tools to protect us. Chemical barrier. It's acidic secretion of skin, low pH, which can kill bacteria and viruses. Next one, physical or mechanical barriers. Our skin, thanks to their special glycolipids, lipids, and keratin, is waterproof, and water cannot penetrate it usually, and only some lipid-soluble substances can penetrate our skin. Finally, biological barriers. Those are cells sitting in our skin, like macrophages, dendritic skin. They are waiting for any type of pathogens, bacteria, or viruses to kill them. Second function is regulation of the body temperature. On average, adult produces about 500 milliliters or half a liter of sweat a day. And of course it depends a lot on the temperature. At elevated temperature or during physical activity, there will be much more sweat produced. Finally, one more function of the skin is sensations, cutaneous sensations. The word cutaneous, it means related to the skin. So with our skin we can feel temperature, hot or cold, we can feel touch, we can feel pain. Number 4, metabolic functions. Production of vitamin D starts in the skin, and also conversion of some hormones also happens in the skin. Function number 5, skin serves as a blood reservoir. When we are not using all of our blood, let's say we are not physically active and we don't need it all at a time, about 5% of it will be stored in our skin. Excretion. Nitrogenous wastes and salts that we do not need will be removed from the body through sweat. Skin cancer. There are three main types of skin cancer. There are much more tumors on the skin, but most of them are benign. They do not produce metastases. So risk cancer for cancer: overexposure to ultraviolet radiation. So ultraviolet radiation can damage DNA in the skin cell. And frequent irritation of the skin, for example by different chemicals, if a person has to work with those chemicals without protection. Skin cancer, three types: basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and melanoma. Basal cell carcinoma mostly looks just like a bump on the skin, and it practically never metastasizes. It grows very, very slow, and simple surgery can remove it in 99% of cases, and no additional treatment is required. Squamous cell carcinoma looks much worse. It can happen mostly on scalp, ears, hands, lower lip, and prognosis depends on how early it was treated. At the beginning, it can be just surgery, radiation therapy, and most of cases it doesn't spread either. Finally, the most dangerous skin cancer is melanoma. It's highly metastatic, it's resistant to chemotherapy, and it can kill in just several months because metastases go to all the organs, including brain, liver, bones, and it just kills. It's still possible, of course, to survive if somebody has melanoma, but only if it's found on the early stage when there is still no metastasis, when it didn't spread yet. And in this case, it will be treated by surgical excision and with immunotherapy. You need to know ABCDE rule. ABCDE rule tells you how to recognize if it's a simple mole or if it's melanoma. First, asymmetry. If you cut it in the middle like that, two sides do not match. They are not symmetrical. Borders. Borders are not smooth. They are irregular. Color. It has several varieties of color, lighter, darker. Sometimes it can be something greenish, bluish, or reddish, so different colors in one space. Diameter. It's always larger than 6 millimeters. It's the size of pencil eraser. And finally, it's evolving. It grows and it changes its shape. So please know that ABCD rule and be able to explain each of its components. Also, it will help you to know that in many cases it can be elevated from the skin surface. It is firm when you touch it, and it's growing, getting larger. Usually those signs show later when it develops. Now let's talk about burns. There are several several agents that can cause burns: heat, electricity, radiation, chemicals. And burn is just denaturation of proteins in the tissues, starting from the skin and going deeper and killing our cells. There are immediate threats from the burns, because if it's a large burn, it can cause dehydration, loss of salts, electrolytes, imbalance, and it causes our kidneys to shut down and causes person to go into shock and they can die. So that's immediate threat. Infection develops several hours later, but still it's a big threat.